ladies. Hello, hello. I'm going to give people just a second to jump on here. It's a holiday, so we'll see who shows up. But for those of you who have never joined before, this is the first video you're watching, welcome. My name is Laurel Houston. I am the creator of body mapping and the founder of Reflections Inside and Out, where our goal is to help you love who you are inside and out. We do that through teaching body mapping, and body mapping is the literal map that the universe left on your body to help you know your purpose. And learning body mapping helps you with your relationship with your body, with your money, and my favorite subject, intimacy. This is a 3-part video. This is video number 3 on hair. Video number 1, we talked about color. Video number 2, we talked about texture and curl patterns, that kind of stuff. And this 3rd video is about density and volume. So I'm going to back up just a little bit, because if you haven't watched video number 2, you don't necessarily know the difference between density and texture. So texture is described as fine, medium, or coarse. Texture is if I were to actually take a single strand of hair, what it feels like. Is it silk versus cotton versus wool? So that would be fine, medium, or coarse textured hair. How well it absorbs water has to do with porosity, all those kind of things. So you have all 3 textures all over your body. And you know, women very rarely have coarse hair on their face, but if you do have a coarse hair, you're usually like, oh, where did you come from? And it's usually gray and you tweeze it out quickly. Where we usually have coarse to medium hair in our armpits, or on our pubic bone, or on your legs. It can be a little bit of everything. There are 5 women in my family, and I have, like, my arm hair and my leg hair are the same texture, where I have another sister who gets a 5 o'clock shadow with her leg hair, and that would be texture. Density is another measurement of hair. Density is if you were to take a 1-inch square, how many hairs are in that square? So if you have thin hair, there's a sparse amount of hair in that 1-inch square. Where if you have thick hair, there's a ton of hair in there. Not to be confused with coarse. You can have thin and coarse hair. You can have fine, thick hair. So that means the individual strands are really thin and silky, but there's a crap ton of hair. I have medium fine hair that is thick. When people go to color my hair, they always say, wow, you have so much more hair than I thought you did, because it's thick, but the texture of it is fine. So let's talk about texture and what that tells me about your hair. As you jump on, just say hi. Let me know you're here so I know if comments are working or not. That is something. So with density of hair, the thicker the hair is, meaning the more coverage of hair, the more filtration and protection you need in that area. So your hair, or your body is amazing, and it has a lot of self-defense mechanisms. So I'm going to talk about nose hair for just a second, because this is the easiest place for me to describe how hair is a protection and a filter. So you have eyelashes that filter, you have nose hairs that filter, you have ear hairs that filter. The whole point of them is that things that we don't want in the body get stuck outside the body, and they get stuck outside of the body because there's hair there. Hair is also, well, I'll get to that in just a second. So if you have just a few hairs here and there, then that's usually an area of the body that your body has learned it doesn't need a lot of protection, or it doesn't need a lot of filtering. So if you are not in an environment with a lot of harsh sounds, you are less likely to grow excessive ear hair. Where if you're an old man who has hearing aids and sharp tones hurt his ears, actually cause him physical pain, he's going to get more ear hair. It's also an emotional thing. He doesn't like the way that the world talks about the world to him. As we get older, we tend to be more selective about what we do and do not want to hear. So our body gives us more filtration by growing hair there. So wait, Laurel, are you telling me if I don't want excessive ear hair, I just have to listen to the world without judgment? Yes. But it's really hard for old people to do that because they have how they want the world to be. And so when they hear something other than that, they want to be filtered from it. They want to not have to deal with it. So density happens all over our body in different places. So usually the question that I get the most about when I talk about density is, what about people who are losing hair? They used to have thick hair and it started to fall out. Male pattern baldness, women who have receding hairlines. This is usually when people worry about density, is because they had a certain density and it's starting to change. So first one I want to address is postpartum hair. So firstly, when you are pregnant and you actually start to produce pregnancy hormones like progesterone, your body stops the shedding process. So it's not that you don't lose hair, but instead of losing 100 to 150 hairs a day, you'll lose like 50 to 60 hairs a day for the entire 10 months, because pregnancy is 10, not 9 months, it's 40 weeks. So for that entire 40 weeks, your body, in an effort to conserve nutrition, will stop having your hair fall out. And then after you deliver and you're nursing and your body doesn't need to hold on to that nutrients anymore because it's creating enzymes again in your breast milk, it will let you start to release hair. And this is why you can be in the shower and you're like, I'm going bald, as you have like an entire cat come out of your into your hands. So part of that is physiological. Your hormones are changing, and so you stopped losing hair for an amount of time, and now that process has to restart again. And if you're leaving comments, they're not showing up, not sure why, but just so you know, if you're asking questions and I'm not answering them, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not getting any comments showing up. So there's that. So when you then have another hormonal change, so this is why when you started puberty, you could have had dark, thin hair that maybe had a fine texture to it. And now that your body is producing all of the proteins that come along with going through puberty, your hair can get darker, it can get coarser, or go from fine to medium or medium to coarse, and it can change texture and start to have curl, or the curl can leave and it can go straight. Those are hormonal changes, and they are very, very common because there are only 3 things that affect your hair: health, your diet, your nutrition, your medication, heredity, what were you born with? That usually affects color and curl patterns, and hormones. Every time you have a significant hormone change, it will change your hair. So people that have thyroid problems will also have hair problems. So how does this all connect, especially with density and hair loss? When you are feeling unprotected. So a lot of people that have thyroid issues, and I've done a video on this, so if you want to know more about thyroid, if you're on Facebook, go to the media section, and under videos there is one on your throat, and I talk about thyroid there, or you can find it on my YouTube channel, and it's just called Your Throat. So I talk about thyroids there, but your thyroid is what controls unexpected change. So it's what tells you to start puberty. So a lot of people think if they have thyroid issues, it's because they have a belief that their words don't matter, and that's part of it. That's part of it. But they believe that their words don't matter because there was unexpected change and no one helped them through that. No one talked with them. No one listened to them as they tried to understand it. So because you feel so unprotected, because you feel like you need more filter or more filtration, this can affect your hair growth. So if you feel like you need more protection, your hair will tend to grow in thicker and coarser. If you're feeling protected, you will actually sometimes have hair loss because it's to the point where you're like, hey, I'm happy where I am and I have what I need. So that is something to be aware of. So the other part of that about density is that you have hair all over your body. The only place you don't have hair is on the palm of your hands, the bottom of your feet, and any part of your body that's pink. So think your lips, your nipples. You can have hair around your nipple, but you don't usually have hair actually growing out of your areola or the actual nipple itself. And you have hair growing on your pubic bone, which is called your mons, but you don't actually have hair growing out of your vagina. So you can have it on the skin around it, But pink parts don't grow hair, and neither do palms or bottoms of the feet, because they lack the pores and the ability to do so. So the other part that I think is so amazing about that is that the pink parts of your body are all about heightened senses. That's why they're pink, because the blood is closer to the surface. And they're not meant to be filtered. They're meant to allow you to receive mass amounts of pleasure and joy. And so during creation, you don't have hair on those very sensitive parts of your body, because it's not meant to be filtered. It's meant to be awoken and alive. So your head is where you receive information. It's where you receive knowledge. It's where you receive fun facts. It's where you receive judgment. It's where you receive other people's opinions. So you need a lot of filters around your crown. Your eyebrows are about discernment and judgment, and that's why we can move them when we question, when we're really excited and we want to take more in. It actually opens our eyes up. So the thicker hair is, meaning in a certain square, the more there is, the more filter or protection you need in that area. The thinner the hair, the less filter or protection you feel like you need in that area. So the other places, so if someone has had thick hair and they're starting to lose it and the density is changing, so a lot of men, as they get older, yes, they have male pattern baldness, and that's a genetic factor, that's a heredity, that's one of the 3 H's. However, if they are really feeling disconnected from source energy, from God, and they feel like they're not understanding what they're being told, or they're receiving constant inspiration and revelation for themselves or for other people, they will lose hair, especially right here over the crown chakra, because they don't want it filtered anymore. They want direct line of communication. They want that information to come to them as quickly and unfiltered as possible. So in that instance, you're like, oh, it's fine, I can be bald. But women are like, I'm sorry, how do I get the same personal revelation and inspiration and connection to God without losing my hair? Because I really don't want to lose my hair. And my best, shortest answer for that is connect to your body then. Because if the universe can speak to your heart, then he doesn't have to remove filters from your head. If the universe and God can talk to you through feeling, through impression, through desire, then he doesn't have to mess with your hair. So tap back into your body and get out of your head. That's my short answer to that. Volume and calyx is usually where, when I talk about volume, calyx is the question that people have the most. So there are a couple of traditional places people can have calyx. One is right here on the forehead. Another is the one that actually, like the alpha calyx, that makes your hair stand up in the back. And these are places that the easier it is for you to have and keep really big hair. There's an expression in the South that says the higher the hair, the closer to God. When hair lifts up, it is because there's an energetic shift. Now for you, if that is source and angels, for me that is when I'm receiving inspiration from the Holy Spirit and from my Heavenly Father, from my Savior Jesus Christ, my hair will actually move. Have you ever been in a situation where the hair on the back of your neck stands up and you're like, I got to get out of here? Hair is a way for us to, because it lifts up, and if it stays up, so I can get really big hair. I had amazing early 90s hair. It was huge. So without any back combing, without any ratting, all I have to do is like give it a little bit of a buff, and my hair will pretty much stay like this until I calm it down. So it is very easy for me to lift myself towards the heavens. It is very easy for me to connect to inspiration and to source energy and to a spirit. So when we have calyx and you have that permanent stand up, when it is around the forehead and the hairline there, those are people who receive their intuition and their inspiration on thoughts and ideas. So when they get stuck in overthinking, it's because they've shut down their ability to hear spirit, because they naturally are connected. but it has to do about decision making. And so anytime these people consult with the universe on what decision they make, the answers come quickly and they're not wrong. But if they start to get in their own head and they start to overthink and they take God out of it, they get really confused. When the calyx are in the back, over around the crown chakra, these are people who are highly, highly connected to nature, to spirit. They are able to be all around, and they can actually, I call them the nature whisperers, but they're the people that are very connected to vibrations and rhythms, and they can tell when there's been a change in the vibe of the room. I don't know how to explain it without going into a whole squirrel. But when people have calyx, they are a very naturally in tuned person, not to be confused with an empath. These are people that can connect not necessarily to other people, because they may actually be really socially awkward, but they are people who can very easily connect to source energy, to spirit, and to God. And the calyx is a reminder that these are people who naturally walk with angels. Not to say other people don't, but these ones are aware of their angels. And if they have any kind of training to familiarize themselves with this, it comes very easy. Hair is a beautiful thing. Hair is something that helps to regulate us and to mourn us. So when this is why for some people when they do energy work, they get goosebumps and their hair stands up, because there was an energetic change or shift and it was dramatic and it was quick, and so your body was alerting you that that happened. So density, the thicker the hair, the more protection. The thinner the hair, the less filter or protection that needs to be there. So this is why people will lose hair during times of stress, because they are wanting information faster than they can actually process it. So they will, if you take out the physiological factors, because the physiological factors are you still eating healthy? Are you still sleeping? So if you still have good diet, you still have good nutrition, you still have good sleep patterns, and you are losing hair and you're very, very stressed out, a lot of times it's because you are wanting you're wanting to understand your inspiration faster than you actually understand it. So you will lose hair in an effort to remove filters so that you can take on that information more. And all I can say to that is, why are you trying to understand things faster than you can? You wouldn't take someone who's in first grade and put them into fifth grade math and expect them to be successful there. So give yourselves a moment, give yourselves some grace. The other thing that I want to talk about is because when I mentioned when women have coarse hair on their face. So first off, this is usually a sign of one of the 3 H's being off: health, heredity, or hormones. So usually, like, I have a reoccurring chin hair, as in one, reoccurring chin hair, and it pops up right before my period starts. And it is a reminder for me to filter my words while I am on my period and to be kinder to those around me. And so for some women that have had very harsh words, they're way more prone to get facial hair. So as we get older and we give ourselves permission to say harsher words through menopause, that is something that you're more likely, as your estrogen levels go down and your testosterone levels come up, to get chin hairs. So part of it is hormonal. There are physiological reasons for everything. But if you have not started menopause and you already have a whole bunch of chin hair and your testosterone levels are still low and your estrogen levels are still high, it has a lot to do with a reminder that you need to filter your words, that they're coming out harsh, and so you're getting harsh, coarse hair. The same with like your mustache. So down here is words, up here is words with intimate people. And so I always find it interesting when I see a couple and the man has facial hair, because there's something about the way that couple communicates with each other that there needs to be some filtration. There needs to be some kindness with those words. Because women who are happy with how their lover speaks to them unless they really enjoy the texture of hair, tend to like men clean shaven because they love their words and they don't want their words hidden. So with facial hair and with men, they can have density and texture as well. So they're, for the most part, facial hair is coarse, but it can be thin or it can be dense, or it can be, have a really dense mustache and have like a random weird bald spot on the side. Same thing. And the rate at which hair grows has a lot to do with health, but it also has how quickly do you need protection? How quickly do you need those filters to come back for you? So in a nutshell, what I want you to learn about hair all over is that hair is part of your identity. This is why so many cultures choose to not cut mass amounts of hair unless they're in mourning. So a lot of native tribes, they will baby trim their hair, but they don't actually cut off large amounts of hair until a loved one passes away. And then as an act of mourning, as a sign that they are removing, that life has ended, and so they're going to remove and honor. And it's actually a ceremony. Like, they don't just go into a barber and be like, chop it all off. There's actually cultures who care about hair are very particular about who can comb their hair, who can braid their hair, who can cut their hair, because it must be done with reverence and respect. So hair is part of your identity. The way we treat our hair is a huge indicator of how we treat ourselves. If our hair is worth caring for, we are worth caring for. The texture and color, as our hair naturally lightens, it's because we are feeling the light and brightness of the world. As our hair darkens, it's because we're retreating and we need some time on our own a little bit. As hormone levels change, the darker the hair, the more filter it provides, the more protection it provides. This is why so many women, as they go through a puberty, their hair gets darker, because you are in a space where you need more protection. You need to be able to filter things better. Where as you get older, your hair lightens and whitens and it loses color altogether, because you are supposed to be a beacon of light. That is why women's hair goes gray, because you're a beacon of light, and gray hair reflects light beautifully. You also have to take into consideration health, heredity, and hormones. If you have premature graying in your hair, and that is what it's been like for 10 generations, well, the person who started it probably had some trauma, because gray hair does have a lot to do with trauma, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritual trauma. But if you have not had a lot of trauma in your life, but you are a carrier of that genetic marker that says we live in trauma, that is when the women in your age will start to get gray hair. So if years and years back you had someone in your family that had a traumatic event at 38 years old, the women in your hair will start to get gray hair at about 38 years old, until that generational marker or pattern is healed. And I think it is beautiful to remind you that yes, hair is something that we play with. Hair is so psychological. We hide behind our hair. We value our hair. We abuse our hair. We do so much to our hair. We shave it off. We wax it off. We complain about it. Hair holds smell. Hair is something that helps us feel more or less attractive. Hair is so psychological. And that is something that, all of a sudden, there's like a whole bunch of comments that popped up. I started to get gray hair in my mid-20s. Okay, so Natalie said, I started to get gray hair in my mid-20s. So that tells me that either she had some trauma in her mid-20s, or there's a generational pattern that in their mid-20s, there was a woman that had some trauma. And it started to, that's when the trauma shows up for your family. Okay, I feel like I need to explain that a little bit more. People will look at generational patterns in multiple ways, but this is the easiest way I can explain it. If you have had, I'm going to use myself as an example. So when my father was a child, he fell off a cliff and landed in a bush. And that happened as a very young child, before he had any children. But what happened is his brain said heights equal possible death. And that was literally encoded onto his DNA. So then he went on to have children. So having never had any kind of traumatic experience with heights, I have always been terrified of heights because my genetic code has his experience embedded on it. So if you have like an irrational fear of dogs, but you've never been bitten by one, somewhere in your genetic code had that. And so that is what I mean by your generational code. So if you had, because then what happens is even if that, so what, let's say someone has a traumatic experience in their 60s and they're past their childbearing years, but they're still raising children, then it's not necessarily imprinted on their genetic code, but it is imprinted in the way that they live their lives. It becomes something that is in their environment instead of in their code. And so this is why overcoming patterns is so hard. Overcoming false beliefs is so hard. But quite honestly, that's why I love to teach women body mapping. That's why I do these videos. That's why I started Body Mapping Monthly. Okay, so that makes sense then, Natalie. She said I had a very stressful life. It wasn't going the way I wanted. It was going in the exact wrong direction. So, right. And you were needing more light in your life. You were needing to know that you could be seen and that you could be heard and that you could reflect goodness. And that's why our hair goes lighter. But for me personally, the more that I learned about my body and the more that I learned why my body was doing the things that it was doing, the more I could actually do what I was wanting to do, which was learning to love my body. Everyone says, you should love your body. But there's a big gap between love and hate. Big gap. And I just had to get to neutral. I just had to get to understanding. I just had to get to accepting. And so tomorrow, for those of a lot of you have asked me, so I literally put together a program because of this Facebook group. It is called Body Mapping Basics. I go in there once a month and I answer your questions. So the hard part about these Facebook Lives is sometimes I get your questions when I'm live and sometimes I don't. And sometimes comments show up and sometimes they don't. And I pick the topics. But in Body Mapping Basics, because it's a monthly mentoring, you submit your questions and I go in and I answer them. They could be about anything dealing with your body. I'm not picking the topic, you are. You're submitting your question. And the cool part is here, I can't really give you tools to say, well, if you do this on a daily basis, it will change this about you through body mapping. But in the mentoring, I can say, because you have this, if you start to do this, it will help you. And so if you have been watching these videos and you have questions that I have not answered and you're still hoping, waiting, praying that I do a video that will give you the answer you're looking for, join the Body Mapping Basics mentoring, because you will get your questions answered there as soon as you post them. That's the whole point of it. So I will post that in the comments, the link to that, because here's the thing. Tomorrow, June 1st, is our first live call. So it will be the first Tuesday of the month at noon Mountain Time. And I want you on that call. There are so many women that religiously show up on Mondays, and you're watching these videos and you are looking for answers. And the reality is, I can't read your mind and I can't help you get your answers if you don't ask them, but I can't answer them in this group because there's no energetic exchange. It is a free group. I can only give so much information that will help people, and I need you invested in your health more than I am. And so when people sign up for group mentoring, yes, they want the content, but more it's they want what the mentor has. So I want to just take a minute and explain to you what body mapping has done for me. When I started learning body mapping, I hated looking at myself in the mirror because I saw things that I didn't like. Things were stretched, things were fat, things were gross. I used to say that my body was disgusting because I thought I was disgusting. I didn't take care of myself. Because I wasn't taking care of myself, I didn't want my husband to touch me. I felt drained every time my children would want love from me, and they're my children. So then it was like, okay, I am going to start doing self-care, because an empty cup can't fill anyone else's. So I would do all of these things because then I can help other people. Ladies, that's bull crap. Stop doing self-care so that you can help other people. Do self-care because you, as a person, are worth taking care of. This is why self-care isn't working for you, because your whole point in doing self-care is so that you can then give yourself away more. Do self-care because you are worth taking care of, period. That is what body mapping taught me. I am worth taking care of. My body is amazing. And yes, there are still parts of it that I'm like, could use a little change here and there, but I can accept and honor it. I can listen to it. I can understand the messages that my body is shouting at me. I don't have ongoing unexplained pain anymore. I speak the language of my body because I listen to it. And because I listen to it, I honor it. And because I honor it, I welcome receiving good things from other people. So when I jokingly tell people, and they say, what do you talk about? I say, I talk about body, sex, and money and how to love all of them. I'm being serious. I live a life full of a love for my body. I willingly receive new people and relationships. I love to make love to my husband because that is the kind of relationship we share. And if those are things that you are wanting, that is what body mapping can teach you. So I hope that you are able to get the questions answered that you're wanting. I hope that you are showing yourself some grace and some kindness as you go from hating to loving, because you have to, if you're hating, then first you actually have to accept that that is your body. That is what it looks like. That is what it smells like. That is what shape it is. That's what texture it is. And then you can get to neutral. Like some of you who are talking about body love, I'm like, you're not even, you don't even know what neutral is. Stop trying to say you want to love your body when you don't even accept your body. So it goes from hate to accept to neutral to honor and then to love. And that is what I teach women with body mapping. So if it starts with you changing the way you do look at your hair, great. If it's your shoulders, you need to look at different. If it's your back, if it's your breast, if it's your toes, pick a part of your body. Learn what it means for you. And more importantly, learn that you can have the life and the body and the love that you want. And you don't have to do it alone. You don't. I didn't do it alone. I hired hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of mentors to help me get where I am. And I want that for so many of you, because you are not allowing yourselves to live the lives you deserve. You're thinking that the most amazing thing your body can do is release weight, when the whole reason your body gained weight in the first place was because you felt unsafe. You told your body to hide, and it did, and now you hate it for it. Let me teach you the tools you need to love and honor and find neutrality and accept your body and get out of hate. Ladies, it's not just about your hair. It's that you are worth taking care of. And I will never stop teaching women that. And I hope that whether you learn it from me or someone else, that you learn you are worth taking care of. I love you. I hope that you have a fantastic day today as you go about your day doing whatever it is you feel is appropriate for this amazing Monday. I honor and value those who have served for the country that I live in, for all of the soldiers. I have several nephews that are actually in the armed services. And I invite you to take a moment and just, if you can't show gratitude for your body, then show gratitude for all of the bodies that fight so that you can freely love yours. I love you. Have a fabulous Monday.